Tom, the temperature crash is pretty rapid behind these storms. So once the storms pass to the east, already in Sycamore, which hit a high of 77 earlier, they're already down to 51. So the temperature drop is noticeable, and that will certainly be prevalent across the area as the night moves on.
Well, you know, this is one of these nights where we put Micah outside with a thermometer because
and an umbrella.
Yeah, an umbrella. And Micah likes to watch the thermometer change.
I do. Tom, quick question. You had said earlier in the newscast that this storm is making a beeline for Chicago with possible tornadoes to follow. What's it looking like now as far as hitting the city?
It seems to be following some of the guidance, and that is areas to the north of us seem the most. Let me get back to the radar, and I'll show you what's going on. But it looks like the northern half of the area is favored right now by the storms that are present around the area. I'm just switching backwards here, guys. All right, now there's the hail. Look at this. You get an idea since this is what the track on this is. So take a ruler and lay it along this southwest, northeast oriented band. And where do you get from that? You go into northern King County, you go into far northwestern Cook County. That avoids the heart of the city. But you also get up and clip McHenry County here in Lake County. So if you're out here toward Arlington Heights or up north, Lake Villa, areas up north, you are in line for some thunderstorms. And it's interesting, too. Demetrius was making an interesting comment. What happens is these upper winds will take the cool air off the top of the storms and blow it out ahead of the storm that's producing it to begin with. So when you blow cool air over unseasonably warm air, you destabilize the atmosphere, and that's why you see these thunderstorms start proliferating so quickly in a given area. There's a multiplicative effect, if you will. These storms develop very, very quickly over a given area. Oh boy, here comes another one. Every time that ding goes off, we kind of sweat it.
Like Pavlov's dog to that thing.
Yeah. Bill just is checking on this now, and we'll tell you in a second.
So while we're doing that, we want to let you know that there's a tornado warning that remains in effect for DeKalb County until 7:15. There was a tornado warning for that was for LaSalle County. That was still 6:45. It looks like it's okay there, right, Tom? There you go. Yeah, it looks like we're okay around LaSalle.
This is a new tornado warning that has now been issued for Kane County. So that's extrapolating that line of storms in DeKalb moving to the east. This is now in effect for Kane County, and it's in effect until 7:30 p.m. A severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado is located near Maple Park or near DeKalb. This storm is moving northeast at 20 miles per hour. Radar indicated so far, but of course these cells have a history of producing funnel clouds and even some tornadoes. So if you're in Maple Park, you want to take cover immediately. The storm will be in your neighborhood in about 5 minutes from now. Elburn, 7 o'clock. Lily Lake around 7:05. So move to a basement or an interior room on the lowest floor of a sturdy building and avoid windows. If you're outdoors in a mobile home or in a vehicle, move to the closest substantial shelter and protect yourself from potentially flying debris with this cluster of storms.
Interesting.
So there you have it. One thing that we've kind of, looking at this shot here, these are slow-moving storms. I mean, 20 miles per hour, there's going to be some pooling and some ponding on some of the, we could be looking at some localized flooding there.
Interesting to say that, Demetrius, because, they have issued a flood advisory for those areas as well. So in addition to worrying about severe thunderstorms and large hail, possible tornadoes and large hail, there is, of course, an issue for some flooding as they've issued a flood advisory until 11 p.m. So that's another issue to contend with here.
Guys, how did we get to this point in February? I mean, climate change, how did we get here?
Well, that's a great question. We've got a powerful El Nino superimposed on an already warming climate. So you've got two factors there that are at work. El Ninos are known to keep the winds blowing from the Pacific Ocean across the lower 48. So they tend to dump all that rain out in California on the west coast as the air is ascending up each mountain range. The Sierra in California, the Wasatch in Utah, the Colorado Rockies out in Wyoming Rockies. Then the air sinks out of those mountains. It compresses and warms. It's already warm to begin with because it has an oceanic origin. And it blows because of steering winds that blow from the west. That warm air migrates eastward into our area. And we're already in a climate that has been warming. Do you know Januaries have gotten about 6.1 degrees warmer than they were back in the 1970s around here? And collectively, those winters of the 70s that we all remember were the worst decade in terms of snowstorms and cold air. Every one of those snowstorms came in with sub-zero cold air masses. When's the last time you remember that happening? We'll get a shot a week and a half of cold air like that, and then boom, it goes away. And that's a sign that there's overall warming going, and then you superimpose El Nino on that and its warming effect, and you come up with this lack of snowfall. This has decimated the winter sports industry in the upper Midwest. And, that'll have implications on the pollen season, implications on bugs like mosquitoes and all that, are typically thwarted to some extent by cold air.
Do we see more of this happening in the future?
Well, you know what? Next year we'll have a La Nina going. And interestingly enough, La Nina winters are often tend to average a little bit above normal. No two winters will be necessarily alike. It isn't one of these situations where it gets this warm this winter and it's a guarantee it's going to get that warm the next winter. The temperatures go up and down. But what you do is you average over a period of time and you look at the trend, and that's where we see the positive evidence that, we're warming up. And then strong El Nino comes along. You get these things every 3 to 7 years. And you put that on top of an already warming environment, and you start getting numbers you haven't seen before, times of the years when you haven't seen them before.
Yeah, look at this video from Mendota, the low clouds that we have that just came in. Take a look at that. Wow, we can't see anything.
No.
Wow. So that's south of where the very first tornado of the evening was spotted there in Sublette, right?
Well, we know it's daytime there, so at least that kind of gives us an idea of when this was shot. That area was under a tornado warning, I think, just before sunset. Sunset was around 5:39 today, so. This was when that was shot, probably.
And you know what, guys? I think somehow in the movement of that video from the camera that shot it, probably an iPhone, to our equipment, we got a blurry picture there. But you got the idea. You saw the moisture. That's where we look at dew points. If we had dew points like we did before the Plainfield tornado up in the low 80s, that's when you get these tornadoes get wrapped in clouds that makes them invisible to the eye because the cloud goes right down to the surface with all that moisture in the air. We have mid-50 dew points, and therefore you tend to see the elephant trunk hanging down from the clouds because the cloud base doesn't come down as low and you don't have moisture levels that are as high as they get, say, in August and during the summertime at times. So we'll have a pretty good line of sight on these storms, and now we'll depend on lightning to backlight or illuminate the clouds at night, and that's what our spotters are trained to look for as they are out in the field and giving us ground truth about what's going on. Look at the storms, by the way. When we started, the yellows and oranges were right out here in Lee County. Now they're moving into Lake County and McHenry County. So you folks up here are starting to get downpours and lightning, and we'll keep an eye on those storms and what they do when up in that area. And once again, these are wind chills, but look at the air that's coming in. Wow, we won't get that cold, thank goodness.
Tom, you've been doing this a long time, and I can imagine if you had colleagues, how you guys got in touch with each other in a situation like this, where you've gone from that to now text messaging. Yeah. Morgan Kochmeyer is at home, and she says, she's looking at her radar, she says, take a look at I believe it's Pingree Grove.
Yes, Pingree Grove, yes.
South of Huntley. So if we can go there, and Bill's in control here, that's up here, right? Yeah. Now, this is an area that is not under the tornado warning at this time, but we do like to, if we see something, we'll let you know. So if we can take a look right up in this area.
Yeah, look at that. You got
look at that here.
You got a hook echo there.
Yeah, we got a well-defined hook echo there, so well-defined.
What that means when we talk about a hook echo, it means there's a circulation there. We call that a meso-low. It's a medium-sized low pressure. And tornadoes tend to dip from the sides of those things, beneath those things. The air rotates around an area because it's rising, and just like air spins around a bathtub drain when it goes down the bathtub drain, when the air goes up in the atmosphere, the air is swirling in to replace it will begin to rotate because of Coriolis, the spin of the earth.
Oh, you got it. So that ping was was a warning for that. The bragging rights are going to be hers for a long time.
How about that?
How about that?
Good job, Morgan.
Good job,
I'll tell
Morgan. So northern Kane County until 7:30, we have a tornado warning. Now let's go back to that Max 2 radar if you can, guys. Let's see. It is located near a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located near Pingree Grove or near Elgin, moving northeast at only 15 miles per hour. It's radar indicated once again, so it's a very slow storm. This dangerous storm is near Elgin, Carpentersville, Huntley, Gilberts, West Dundee, and Sleepy Hollow. It was there by about 6:55. So there you go. The Pingree Grove, that area now, you're under a tornado warning until I believe that was 7:35.
7:30.
7:30.
Yes.
7:30. That's a new warning for Kane County that has just been issued.
Excellent.
So yeah, this is
That
quick.
helps out a great deal, and hats off to Morgan. That's why it's great to have a whole set of eyes on all these. We're looking at radars, we're looking at incoming data, and all the rest. And when you've got a group of people focusing on these developing weather situations, you catch things. And we have quite a discussion among ourselves about, what we see unfolding and all. Yeah.
I lost count when listening to Bill and Demetrius and you, Tom.
Yeah.
It sounded like it was as many as 4 differentiated between the funnel clouds and tornadoes. You see that tornado icon. That's what we're seeing when it shows up on the map, right? Not something that's radar indicated. That's something that somebody has actually spotted on the horizon.
That's right, Ray. If there's an icon planted on it, that comes from what we call in the business an LSR, a local storm report that's been filed by a spotter and put into the Weather Service storm database. And those LSRs are sent out continuously during the storms. And our computer strips the report of that local storm report off and boop, puts the icon right on the spot where that's happened.
Right.
And it's one of the tremendous developments of this computer technology because you're not going to an atlas. When somebody calls in from an area you're not used to looking for, the machine grabs it and puts it right on there for us right away. It really helps in analysis, rapid analysis in these critical and fast-changing situations.
What was that last
guys,
warning that came over?
Let me just jump in real quick, guys. Yeah, we've just got another tornado warning now just issued from the National Weather Service, and this is affecting northern Kendall County and southern Kane County until 7:30 p.m. A severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located over Hinckley or near Sandwich, moving to the east at 40 miles per hour. So
now, think of the towns that are taken into account there. That's Aurora.
Yep, Yorkville.
You're approaching Naperville.
Montgomery, Oswego.
Yorkville. Yep, the whole area there, the southern
These
Fox
are some
Valley area.
large metropolitan populated areas.
Yep.
So that's certainly
Sugar
would
Grove.
take cover immediately if you're in any of those locations.
Yeah.
So we're seeing 5 tornado warnings right now. I believe the latest expires at 7:30.
Right.
That's the one moving through northern Kane County at this time.
Yes.
The one that was just issued is is Kendall County and southern Kane County.
Correct.
We are still looking at 2 in DeKalb County.
Yep.
And we've had possible spotter confirmation. Either way, this is a critical situation. So there's that wall of storms that we see coming our way. And if it's headed your way, DuPage County, northern Cook County, Lake County, McHenry County, it's time to know exactly where to be because we are not seeing any indication that these are not going to continue rotating. And in this case, letting our Doppler know, hey, maybe here we could be seeing a tornado.
And by the way, Micah, you were asking about, our comment on where it was going.
Yeah.
This stuff, the southern flank of these storms has developed here. And if you just project the movement, this takes it into more of Cook County and Chicago, more of DuPage and even northern Will County than the first line.
You don't see it changing patterns at all?
Oh, these things are highly dynamic. If you got a thunderstorm here and it's moving east at 30, there's no guarantee it's going to stay intact. And in fact, it's gushing cool air out, and it may lead to new formation that's not even on the radar at the moment. That's why modeling these things is so complex because one thunderstorm begets another one just by virtue of its outflow that comes out. And that can be the starting point for a new group of thunderstorms that aren't even on the radar at the moment.
When do you expect all that cold air to rush in and cause, things to change a little bit more?
About 10 o'clock.
Okay.
That's when the front will reach the city. You folks in northwest Indiana, maybe a little bit later. But the cold front will come through, and boy, you add cold, dense air to the mix, and boom, you destroy the updrafts that produce and sustain thunderstorms. So the whole thing will turn off, and then our attention turns to any icing that develops and the snow that will follow a couple hours later for a couple of hours tonight, probably between 1 and 2 a.m. Up to maybe 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. That's a rough bracket for the snowfall. And that will bring its own share of problems, untreated roads and so forth. Could be deceptively icy. It's not often you go from mid-70-degree warmth to, upper teens and low 20s in a...
Like a flash freeze situation.
Yeah, it's like a flash freeze situation, absolutely.
So if you're driving late tonight, be careful, because you could have some black ice and all other things.
Absolutely,
happening.
and you don't know it's there, which is really particularly insidious. Yeah.
So how by morning rush hour, what's
Yeah.
it going to look like?
I think, based on the modeling that's done now, we get some snow that could last in the city. It'll be over out in the western suburbs by 6 or 7 o'clock tomorrow, out in the Fox Valley, for instance, from all indications. But in the city, we could have a period from 6 to 7 or 8 a.m. where there's still some lingering snow, and northwest Indiana could have that go a little longer than that. And then by 9 o'clock, the skies should be starting to clear, and we're going to have by lunchtime tomorrow, the sun will be out brightly, the wind will be blowing strongly from the northwest, and we will be back in Arctic air for a day or two and ready to start the same crazy upswing in temperatures for the weekend, which is well timed. Ought to be in the 60s Saturday and the low 70s on Sunday. So we're going back into Never Never Land again.
Guys, if we can...
Go ahead, Bill.
Oh, I was just going to say, Ray, if we can quickly go over to Max 2, just to give people an idea where that cluster of storms that's prompted the tornado warning. We've got a time of arrival here, so if you're watching us from Elgin, the storm will be moving into your area in about 20 minutes from now. Algonquin, 7:23. Hanover, I believe that would be Hanover Park, but 7:35 p.m. and 7:54 in Winfield. So if you're in any of those locations, you want to treat these storm cells as if they're capable of producing a tornado. And again, we're past sunset, so any of these storms you're not going to be able, the storm will not be visible, so you just want to take cover and pretend like these storms are.
Hey, Bill, move that radar, move it up some, all right?
Okay.
Can we go back to the Max
Sure.
2 here? And look what's happened here as this has evolved. See how that tail down on the south, the bottom of the screen? That stuff wasn't there before. These are all newly formed storms that are coming out of LaSalle County and moving toward Kendall and Grundy County, southern Kane County there. This is all moving northeastward. So that's the stuff, Micah, that might wind up ultimately, to the extent it holds together, in Chicago. Bill, widen out just a little bit, and see how intense those cells are at the southern end of this?
Yeah.
So what's happened there is we've gotten air gushing out of that first cluster of storms, and then where it says Northville right there, that stuff just north of there has just developed. That's how dynamic these situations are.
It's just popping up all over the place. And how many cells are we talking?
Well, we've got, what do you figure, guys?
Four tornado warnings at least right now. Here, I'll pull this up right now just to give everybody an idea.
And then let's go back to that, Tom, because I got a question for you about this. This is just, I want to know what we're seeing. As far as that's going, if we can go back to that, Bill, we do have, right now all our tornado warnings are in Kane County and
here they are.
At this time, and into Kendall County.
Kane.
Three, yes, exactly.
So there are the active warnings right now, the ones in red right there.
So on the radar, we're seeing the northern periphery of this thing looks like it's pushing north. If we can put that into motion right there, the northern periphery looks like it's pushing north.
Yeah.
Is this a meso? You see how the bottom is pushing. So are we looking at kind of a localized low here? That's probably working.
You know what's interesting, and the models caught this. There's like a split in the jet stream winds. So you've got one channel of winds going up toward Lake and McHenry counties. And there apparently is a branch of the upper steering winds that's going more easterly. And that's carrying that southern stuff. north, and between that split, where the jet splits like that, the air is rising very often. It's an indication of that. And you got storms to fill in for that. But yeah, it's really something. You can see kind of an arc developing. There's like a giant little meso-low developing there out in Kane County. There's kind of a curl to
right up on I-88 there.
Yeah, there's kind of a curl there. So, boy, and that one that's going into Kane County, it would be within that circulation that there's, or that little meso-low that we've got some kind of circulation that's coming back on the radar and has prompted the warnings out there.
Definitely seen social media pictures of the tornado just to the east of Hinckley out in DeKalb County.
Yeah.
I'll show you this, Tom. You can see that right there.
There it is.
Yep.
I wish we could show you that, guys. Maybe the guys and our news people can lift those out.
So if we can put this on the chroma key, I can just kind of give folks an idea because we were, a lot of people were wondering if you're watching us from Chicago, you are under a tornado watch at this time. We do have some warnings. Most of our warnings, almost all of our warnings, are in Kane County at this time. So we're seeing this line of storms lift to the north. If you're in Lake County, thunder, lightning right now, you're still under that tornado watch. We haven't seen much northward motion. A lot of these things are moving east. Down here, as Tom mentioned, new cluster, at least you're going to get strong winds. I mean, this is very clear that we're going to see these winds really push through as you get into portions of southern Kane County at this time, eventually headed towards DuPage and also Will counties. So even as far south as Joliet, I'd say, I don't think that this builds back north. I think it continues to press south and continues to press east, and that is what I think would possibly make its way towards Chicago, as this whole cluster is sort of rotating in this direction, right? Lifting to the north here, pressing to the east there. This is why all across our viewing area we have that tornado watch, which is in effect. Earlier today we just saw storms kind of clustered up along I-88, but now they've kind of expanded and we're seeing a push to the north. Tom mentioned that the jet stream winds are what's pushing these to the north through portions of Lake County, and look at how this lightning is really picking up in southeastern McHenry County. And then as you go south, this is a new cluster which has just developed. Almost everything that we've seen develop today has started rotating and has prompted a tornado warning. So I would say that there's probably a lot of reason to believe that next we'd be looking at portions of Will County. Next we'd be looking down, maybe even into portions of DuPage County for the possible next tornado warning, or at least straight line winds in this direction. When you're talking about winds, and when this thing is really kicking out here, most of these storms have been going slow at 20, 30 miles per hour, but this little area there is where winds are really going to kind of kick out, and we were expecting winds up to maybe 50 miles per hour. We may be seeing that down there.
If you're just tuning in, we are still on the air here at 7:05 because there have been several tornado warnings in the area here in Illinois. Also, we are under a tornado watch at least until 10 o'clock tonight. We do have reporters who are on the line of fire. We've got Jenna Barnes heading that way. Andrea Medina is in the city of Chicago looking for any type of damage. We understand the tornadoes and the storm is heading this way. It's been going on since about 5:30 this evening. Yeah, a little bit about 5:30 this evening. And we do have a full complement of weather folks in here covering everything. We've got Demetrius, we've got producer Bill Schneider, and of course, the last night, his last hurrah, Tom Skilling is here covering this this terrible storm. We had to get you before you left, Tom.
Yeah, exactly. So people have been writing and saying, well, this is only appropriate that Mother Nature would come through. I don't think Mother Nature sees it that way. But, hey, I want to show you something, too. These storms that Demetrius was talking about, look where the warm air still is. These are current temperatures. Look how it's cooled off back behind the storms. But this here is juicy. This is how temperatures have changed in the last 24 hours. So the air mass is still warmer than it was last night in that area into which these storms are migrating. And the dew points are bumping up against 60 degrees. This is juicy air down here. And so these storms will go where they have to go. I've watched hurricanes seek out warm water as they approach a coastline sometimes because that's their fuel. Well, these storms fuel themselves with all this moisture in the air, and the dew point at Lansing is 60. That's a spring-like dew point. So little wonder that we're seeing the line out here heading eastward and farther south. Look at this, too. This is these are the cold cloud tops right here. And you can see how they've expanded. And what often happens is the outflow, this cold boundary right here, serves as the starting point for new storms, and that's what's going on right now. Tallest clouds are the coldest ones are up here right now, but right along the boundary here, the outflow is coming out of these thunderstorms, and new ones will form in that area. And here you can see all the rotation in these cells out in Kane County, which is why there's the tornado warning out there, and also severe thunderstorm warnings around it. Bill, what was that just coming in?
That's associated with this line, as we've been talking about here for the last several minutes, of the back building to the south there. And so now we've gotten a severe thunderstorm warning now in effect for multiple counties in our viewing area. Kendall County, Southern Lake County, Northwestern Will County, Southeastern McHenry County, DuPage County, and now in Cook County. Severe thunderstorms are located along a line of from Algonquin to near Campton Hills to near Sugar Grove to near Yorkville, moving to the east at 40 miles per hour. So these storms are capable of producing 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts and half-dollar size hail.
And you know, it's interesting. Look what's developing there. We've got a bowed line, a squall line developing. That's when you get that arc, that's a sign. You've often got storms that are gushing air briskly out of their front side, and you know, that's that outflow that races into an area when a squall line approaches. So that's what's happening, and you can see it's kind of developing eastward. Individual cells are moving northeast, but boy, that thing seems to be targeting a good chunk of Cook County, particularly central and northern Cook County. From the looks of things, you would just simply extrapolate that eastward. There's the lightning. Wow. And isn't that something? Lots of lightning there. Boy, this old squall line's putting on quite a light show. And yet, what's interesting, look how the lightning's diminishing out to the west. And of course, that will continue to happen as the cold air rushes in. That will thwart convection. There's where the tornadoes have been reported. And Ray, as you pointed out, where you see an icon, it's actually where the eyes on the ground have been made contact with these cells, and they've reported that to our National Weather Service colleagues, who then put it into a database, which our computers strip off, and put the report in map form there, so you can see right where it is. But wow. Lots of action there.
Yeah, Tom, we have a lot of delays too. We have another Metro delay. UP Northwest inbound and outbound trains are stopped near Barrington due to tornado warnings. And we understand that the Metro will provide updates, but you can get all the updates on WGNTV.com. O'Hare does have a ground stop as well. Midway, we haven't heard anything yet, but of course, like I said, WGNTV.com has everything.
Hey guys, talk also about the amounts of rain that you think we're seeing, and we also had the focus on the hail. What are we knowing about the hail that's been falling?
Well, we've had 1.5-inch diameter hail, and that's pretty good size hail. You wouldn't want one of those hitting you on the head. 67 is the temp right now. In terms of rainfall, that'll vary with where the storms have occurred. But boy, I'll tell you, I wouldn't be surprised to get a quick 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch out of this. By the way, 1.5-inch diameter hail is considered walnut and ping pong size hail.
Right.
1.25-inch diameter hail is $half hail. 1-inch diameter hail is quarter sized. And 88/100ths of an inch is nickel size, and 3/4 of an inch is penny size. So sometimes instead of us citing numbers and giving you the diameter of the storms, we use more colloquial terms that I think are easier to really understand.
As that storm cluster moved through Sugar Grove Municipal Airport, 63-mile-per-hour wind gusts. So,
wow.
Anytime a storm is above 58 miles per hour is considered the threshold for damage.
Yeah.
So anything above 58 miles per hour certainly can bring down some tree limbs and so forth, and move some lawn furniture and that kind of thing.
Now that's a telling graphic right there. Time of arrival, and look where that winds up. It's coming into parts of Cook County and Chicago.
The next hour.
And this is a bold line, so we're talking about winds.
Yeah.
We haven't been seeing these strong winds. We don't have many reports of them yet.
Well, Demetrius, that's why Bill's report that he's just received, you're right. And Sugar Grove is so interesting because maybe we're seeing the first of what will be a series of wind reports with this bowed line.
And what's interesting too, Tom, is you notice that the previous cells were moving. We were marking how slow they were moving.
Yeah.
This has now picked up some speed. We're now up to 40 miles per hour with this cluster. So it's starting to certainly gain some strength.
Wow, that is interesting. Now that's more in line with what you would have thought, don't you think, Demetrius?
I think so. And as you mentioned, it's now tapping into air that's still pretty unstable. I mean, dew point temperatures yesterday they were in the 30s.
Yeah.
You know, and all that moisture evected into our area, and now that we have dew points, especially down here, still we have dew points which are right now. If we can drop the super just for a second, there you go. Okay, so we have a line that's bowed out. So you're talking wind damage certainly around this area.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't want to be here either, quite honestly. This line's moving, I think Bill said 40 miles per hour.
Yeah.
Should be in Chicago by 8:06. We're seeing the winds pick up associated with this line. And I'm just going to it looks like north of 88 is where we're seeing a lot of the tornado warnings and the possible rotation and things like that. But down here, it's kind of a different scenario where we have a squall line that's, that's bowing out on the southern side, tapping into more instability. So we're not through with this thing, even after this tornado warning's done at 7:30.
Demetrius, I hate to jump in here, but they've now just issued a tornado warning for southeastern Kane County till 7:30 p.m. A confirmed damaging tornado on the ground. The storm was near North Aurora or near Batavia, moving to the northeast now at 45 miles per hour. This tornadic supercellular storm will be near St. Charles, West Chicago, Batavia, Geneva, and North Aurora around 7:15, which is in the next couple of minutes,
2 minutes,
and in Wayne around 7:20 p.m. So it's
highly populated areas.
Another confirmed tornado in a large area.
And now moving 45 miles an hour, so they're picking up speed.
Not good news.
Well, that's what these things are doing. They're reaching up into the upper levels, and they help mix some of that wind energy down to the surface and rotate on top of it. But very interesting. We continue to think, though, that by 10 o'clock tonight, through the city itself, that ought to be, most of the action ought to be over and to the east of us, moving away. There are the current warnings. The thunderstorm warnings are in yellow. So, there's all of Cook County in there, southern Lake County up to the north, southeastern McHenry County, northern Will, and Kendall County is in on that as well as Kane County.
So now we're almost to the state line there. So Central Lake County. That's our new tornado warning.
There's our new one, right?
Right in that area. So we just I believe, Bill, our last tornado warning expires at 7:30.
7:30 for now, right? But that does we're going to have to watch this line closely.
Yeah, there's no reason to believe that they're going to shut. They don't follow county lines, so they're not going to just stop when they reach DuPage
and it's
County.
These storms are still moving into a favorable environment, as Tom just showed on the temperature map. We still got mid to upper 60-degree temperatures and dew points that are in the upper 50s to near 60. So that's a very, very juicy environment for these storms to continue their strength until that colder air moves in from the west.
Yeah.
And after this simmers down, then we've got snow heading our way.
Yeah.
Overnight, yes.
Yeah, it won't be a huge amount, Micah, but you remember we had something like that
last weekend.
Yeah, last weekend. And it was a mess. We left, I went out into our parking lot out here, and boy, you had to be careful. You lost your footing and everything
Is that
else.
thick snow? Are we going to get something like that again?
Yeah.
That thick, wet snow?
Yeah, and not only that, your car's sitting out there, it's been warm. This thing will come down, it'll melt on it, and you'll have to scrape it off tomorrow because it'll be that cold. So, leave some time for that. That's a lot of fun, huh?
Yeah. What do you think, what are you guys expecting for Cook County as the evening goes on?
Well, it would appear, and I'm back of the envelope guessing this, but it would appear to me we're about an hour or two from the stuff getting into Cook County. And so I would think 8, 9 o'clock looks like the period right here in Cook County. It'll be a little sooner if you're out west toward DuPage County, the west end of the county. So 8, 9 o'clock. And by 10 o'clock, it ought to be mostly east of Chicago, northwest Indiana. You folks could be dealing with that for maybe another hour to the extent there are storms that stay alive there. And then we'll get a period where it quiets down, the wind will start roaring, the temp will start plunging, and we'll get some rain showers and quickly go over to some snow showers by about 1 o'clock. And we could have snow in the air blowing on 30 and 40 mile an hour wind gusts and falling temps till about 6, 7, at maximum 8 o'clock in the morning, and then a rapid clear out. By the time we gather tomorrow night, it will be clear, it will be cold, we'll be in Arctic air and talking about the big warm-up coming for the weekend. It will be warming up the rest of the week after tomorrow and tomorrow night.
Yeah, but for right now, folks who are watching us in North Aurora, Batavia, they need to be seeking shelter, right?
Yeah, I can almost hear the sirens going right now. And there'll be a lot of concern about that because that's frightening, particularly in the darkness when the sirens go off. That's what that's all about if you're just tuning in. And by the way, welcome to our audience on WGN Radio as well. WGN Radio simulcasts our television storm coverage. If you're out in that area, that's why the sirens are blowing, because there have been tornadoes indicated in that area. And stand by, because here comes another one,
guys.
Yeah.
Here we go. Here we just came in, and we now have a new tornado warning in effect for southwestern Lake County, southeastern McHenry County, northwestern Cook County until 7:45. Severe thunderstorms capable of producing a tornado were located along a line extending from Algonquin to Elgin. These are moving to the northeast at 25 miles per hour. So if you are watching us from Elgin, Hoffman Estates, Streamwood, Algonquin, Barrington, Cary, Fox River Grove, Barrington Hills, and East Dundee, these storms will be moving into your area here in the next 5 minutes or so. Lake Zurich, Inverness, Port Barrington, and Tower Lakes around 7:25, and Wakanda and Hawthorne Woods around 7:30. So these storms are certainly have tornadic production history and are capable of producing multiple tornadoes with this line.
Yeah, and here's our map on Max 1, guys. If you go there, and we'll show you the warning we were just discussing on this computer. See the white area up there in southwest Lake County, northwest Cook County, extreme southeast McHenry County. Then there's another tornado warning behind that in northern Kane County, another one in east central Kane County, right on the border with DuPage County right there. The orange areas are under thunderstorm warnings. And again, this all ought to be pretty well done by 10 o'clock tonight, but we're still in an active phase here with these storms. We've been watching them explode literally from clear air. Isn't that something? This thing goes boom right there.
And we're seeing there's so much spin, so much shear right now.
Yeah.
So in this case, we're almost everything that we see pop up has rotated.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
And I don't know if that line south, if that's going to happen. There are different types of tornadoes. I thought earlier today that they were more kind of the supercell variety, but now.
Yeah.
Now it's looking like, especially that we have a line that's bowed out and up north. I mean, it's really hard to even find a couplet in what's going on there. So Lake County seeks shelter, as Tom mentioned, Vernon Hills down into Lake Zurich.
Demetrius, now we just got another one now. And this tornado warning is in effect until 7:45 for northwestern DuPage County, northwestern Cook County.
Yeah.
Severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located right over Geneva, moving to the northeast now at 50 miles per hour. So these have certainly picked up some steam. And even if it's not producing a tornado, when you see a storm cell that's moving at that speed, nearly highway speed, it's certainly capable of taking some of that wind energy and bringing it down to the surface in the form of damaging gusts. So this storm will be near Schaumburg, Bartlett, Streamwood, Carroll Stream, Hanover Park, West Chicago, Roselle, Bloomingdale, Winfield, and Wayne around 7:25. So that's in the next 5 minutes or so. Yeah. Glendale Heights 7:30 and Hoffman Estates around 7:35. If you're in any of those locations, you want to take cover now.
Yeah, stay away from windows at all.
For people in Chicago, the city of Chicago, it is time to take notice. This thing is one county away. Yeah. It's moving 50 miles per hour. And it shows no sign of pressing north and missing the city of Chicago. So, you're under a tornado watch, severe thunderstorm warning. There is no reason to believe that you will not be next in terms of a tornado warning. Almost everything we've seen has started to rotate. We've had a number of, it looks like, confirmed tornadoes. One in Kane County, at least one in Kane County. The wording said damaging tornado. And we have warnings basically in every county surrounding you if you're in the city, except for the southern counties, if you are in the city of Chicago. So, going all the way down there, if you're in the city, and I know, people sometimes in the city are kind of, wait until the last minute. It's time to hunker down, get into a safe space, because as Tom mentioned, you got about an hour, and the light show is going to visit you very quickly.
Yeah, and Demetrius, you made an interesting point. Not all tornadoes are created equal. You get these mesoscale tornadoes where you see a hook echo and so forth. We've switched the mode of tornado development now. With a bowed squall line like that, you get what are called QLCS tornadoes, quasi-linear convective system tornadoes. There are papers written about that. What these are little spin-up tornadoes on the front side of an incoming squall line. They tend to be not quite as long-lasting as the supercellular storms under a mesolow. But you don't see, these things spin up along these squall lines. When we had that derecho a couple years ago that roared from Iowa across the Chicago area, the tornadoes we got out of that were these QLCS tornadoes. They're little spin-ups right on the squall line themselves. A little different in the way they develop, but it's all academic as to what they do. They all are capable of damaging, as are straight line winds. And by the way, often you hear it roared, sounded like a freight train. Any wind going through trees or buildings or alleys will roar like a freight train. That doesn't necessarily mean it's only a tornado doing that damage. So there'll be roaring almost any time. And boy, you can see from that live camera shot that, where is that, Sam? I'm sorry. Near Huntley, right there. That's where our crew is, feeding this live picture
Ground
back.
Cam 9. We have to report that there is a ground stop now at Midway Airport. We had one early at O'Hare. There are several metro delays going on. Here's a question. Where will the cold front crash with this? At what point or can you tell, in the area where the crash will happen?
Oh,
and will turn?
it'll happen between 10 and midnight. And by morning, if you want a temperature, Micah, we'll probably go from the low 60s at around about 10 o'clock tonight. And by the time you get up tomorrow morning, and it'll be around 23 or something like that, low and mid-20s, with a wind chill about 9 above.
Well, is there a particular area where that will happen?
Everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah,
We'll feel it all over.
This thing is, you look at the cold air out west, my gosh, it reaches all the way from the Canadian border right down to Missouri and Arkansas. It'll be entering that area. So this is a broad-based cool down. This is a macro cold air outbreak right here, and it'll cover the whole area. It won't be one area versus another. Everybody's going to shiver on this one.
But it won't last.
It won't last. That's right, Ray. On the other hand, everybody will warm up in the same sort of uniform manner with each day adding degrees in the temperature column. We ought to be in the 40s on Thursday, the 50s on Friday, the 60s Saturday, and the low 70s on Sunday, which is an extraordinary place to be in early March. It's pretty amazing.
So this is happening just in time for your last day?
Yeah,
Parting gift from Mother Nature.
Yeah,
It's his fault.
I'll tell you, isn't that something?
Yeah, well, it could
that's
happen tomorrow.
I go on vacation and blizzards happen, and then I sit up there and I think, what am I doing out here when I ought to be back here covering the cold spell?
Well, it got you.
Yeah, Tom, everyone always-
song.
They weren't going to let me sail off into the sunset quietly,
Everyone always says, what are you going to do when the storms come and Tom's gone? And I'm like, they always come when he's gone.
Exactly.
He knows when they're coming, and that's when he goes on vacation.
No, and Demetrius, I don't, because, you make plans for a vacation months ahead of time. We probably shouldn't be laughing when we got severe thunderstorms dancing across the area, but it is kind of comical, isn't it? The way that works out.
Well, you're here from this one. I got a report from Crystal Lake.
Oh, yes.
Some of the storm spotters out there, hail there, tornado sirens in Joliet at this time.
Not surprising.
So, not surprising. And as we always want to stress where you want to go, and want to make sure we say this enough. Interior spot in your home is where you want to be. Lower level, away from windows. Don't try to close the windows. I think we buried that one earlier, but we can do it again if viewers need us to.
No need to open them up.
Yeah, you want to get away from the window.
if it's so inclined, yeah.
So it could be and get under something sturdy if you can. This is not a drill, if you will. This is the real deal. Yeah. We've had a number of tornadoes which have been reported. Right now, there are going to be anything that develops is going to be wrapped in darkness and wrapped in rain. So, those are, two big issues, two big things that make tornadoes very dangerous. We may be looking at a different type of tornado, which is kind of the more, kind of the pop-up, spin-up type of tornado, which would be harder to, that's a little bit harder to see on the radar.
They don't last as long. They're harder to warn for. They're briefer tornadoes, tend to be smaller scale, and yet they can be infinitely damaging, no question about it.
I think our colleagues at the National Weather Service are just kind of playing it safe, just because, as you mentioned, Tom, we're past dark now, and so you can't really see these things. And even if it's not producing a tornado, if they're certainly capable of taking some of that wind energy down to the surface and producing gusts, as we've seen already, 60 to 70 miles per hour in some areas. So that doesn't need to have a tornado to do damage with those type of winds.
No, it's kind of prudent. That super outbreak in '74, there were just so many tornadoes that occurred then, and we didn't even have benefit of Doppler radar in those days. You really wonder how our colleagues back then handled massive outbreaks like that. Today we have such incredible tools, and that doesn't mean one can't sneak by unnoticed, but it does mean if it's, the chances if it's a pretty good-sized storm, there's no question that we do a better job of warning about it. You know what will happen, too, as these storms pass, they'll be able to go back, my Weather Service colleagues, and get a Doppler plot of where all the circulations have been, right through the whole history of the storm. And they'll dispatch crews based on damage reports and also what their Doppler radar circulation studies show. And we're probably spotting tornadoes now that would never have been spotted before. Little ones that spin up and touch down in a forest or in the middle of a cornfield somewhere, and they don't do the kind of damage that gets a widespread report. And yet we find these things have occurred. So that may be some of why we're seeing some tornadoes that we wouldn't have one time have been aware of. But by and large, it's interesting. Even as the number of tornado reports increases, as it has since 1950, the number of really big ones stays pretty constant, which suggests we're just seeing more of these storms and able to warn for them and also go out and survey them after they occur and survey the damage they've done, rather than there actually being more of the big ones. And it's interesting. It's the biggest tornadoes, the EF5s, that produce the vast majority of deaths and fatalities, and certainly the bulk of the damage, which is not to say the smaller storms are to be ignored, because they can be equally damaging, but the really big ones, the EF5s, those are the ones that take out the whole side of a community, like the Washington, Illinois, the Utica tornado, the Plainfield tornado, the Belvedere and Oak Lawn tornadoes that we've had through history around here. These are monster tornadoes. These little QLCS storms tend to be smaller, and they're not occurring quite on that scale most of the time. There are exceptions.
Similar to what that setup that we had a couple of Augusts ago, Tom, where we had multiple QLCS in addition to the strong tornadoes that were out in Iowa, and then as it moved towards parts of the city, I can't remember, but we had must have been like 15 to 20 reports across the area. Not all of them were strong, but nonetheless, they were still counted as tornadoes.
They did damage.
They did damage.
And you can see in our shot there, mobile homes. I just want to throw this in there. Not a safe place to be when you're talking about a tornado situation. You should be in a sturdy structure. In that case.
Let me say one thing real quick. It is 7:30 now. Have those warnings and watches expired?
No.
There's still one till 7:45, and that's Lake County at this time. And you know what? On this radar, if you're looking for, what you look for, what I look for, I don't know, for the QLCS storms, you look kind of at the bookend of the squall line and the bookend, like the ends of the squall line. So that would be extreme south.
Hey guys,
northwestern. Go ahead.
I think we have a new tornado warning. This is for
Cook County.
Northwestern Cook County now. Is this the same one here, guys?
I think that's no. I don't think that's. I think that's
part of the Lake County.
The Lake County.
That is part of the northern DuPage.
Sorry, I stepped away from my computer here.
This is the one that's in effect until 7:45, but it does affect portions of Cook and DuPage County.
Well, I think that bears repeating then. Why don't you set the stage where we are, where the warnings exist, and what people need to be doing, where they need to be taking shelter right now.
Let's throw up a radar. And okay, there we go. Bill, let's go back to a radar because, we've been doing a pretty good job of analyzing these things. And in this case, what we're seeing right now, first off, that tornado warning. Put this one in motion if you can, and we can see what's going on. First off, Lake County, tornado warning in effect for you until 7:45. It's very hard to see really anything going on there. The only thing I can say is that you're at the top of that squall line. Yep. And if you were expecting a QLCS, it'd be right around here, a spin up maybe right around here. Certainly going to be some strong winds here, headed towards O'Hare, Hoffman Estates, those areas. you're going to get some powerful winds. We've already seen 68 mile per hour, I believe 68 or 63 mile per hour winds in Sugar Grove. You're going to get the strong winds here. If we're talking about another spin up, it would maybe be down here at the kind of the bookend, the two ends here. And you can kind of make out how things just kind of are twisting just naturally because you have the winds pushing this ahead and not so much at the top on the northern side of this thing. So tornado warning remains in effect and for good reason until 7:45. It's probably going to be, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't just push this thing all the way to the lake, but we'll see. They know, the National Weather Service knows more than us, or sees more than us. So in this case, what we're expecting is maybe some wind damage in portions of extreme western Cook County, and then as you get into northwestern DuPage County, and we may be looking at a tornado warning for that area right now.
There it is.
What do we have here?
That's a new tornado warning, and this one is in effect until 8:30 p.m., and that is impacting southeastern Lake, northeastern DuPage, northwestern Cook County.
Okay, so we're right here. We're right in the area that we're talking about. So we think, so right in this area is where we would expect to see a QLCS, right up in, or maybe something stronger, but right up in this area is where there's just that natural rotation. This goes until 8:30. So, that's an hour. That's an hour-long tornado warning. Now we're starting to get into some very highly populated areas. Western Cook County, just west of O'Hare, ground stop at O'Hare, and it doesn't look like they're going to be get going anytime soon. All in this area, we're talking about a kind of a different threat, I'd say,
Yes, Scott, gotta be quick.
than what we saw earlier.
Gotta be quick.
So then what we saw earlier, we're talking about a different threat. Bill's talking to a storm spotter or somebody who's letting him know what he's seeing.
Yes.
But maybe, Tom, I'm thinking right around this area where that warning was issued is where, after those winds bow out, is where you'd be looking to see that spin up, which develops maybe a smaller scale tornado, not as intense, not as strong, but still highly populated area.
Thanks, Scott. I got to run.
Demetrius, just in, 61 mile per hour wind gusts, DuPage County Airport, 724. Here are the tornadoes that have occurred from the reports. 2 miles northeast of Waterman in DeKalb County, 2 miles west-southwest of Big Rock in Kane County, another funnel cloud 3 miles northwest of Sugar Grove. That was reported by the Aurora Police Department from the Orchard Road area. We had 63 mile per hour gusts out at Sugar Grove Airport. Hail, 1 inch diameter at Maple Park, 1 inch diameter at Huntley. And then again, that tornado warning that is up. And for northern Cook County, let's get some
until 8:30. So
well, folks, let's just talk to the folks who are listening. If you've been listening to us since about 5 o'clock, we at about 5:45 started covering this severe weather that's been coming through the Chicagoland area, also all of Illinois mostly. And our weather department has been on top of it. We've seen watches. We've seen at least 4 tornadoes touch down. We've been talking to weather spotters, tornado spotters, and we've got everybody kind of covering everything that's been going on since about 5:45. That's why at 7:34 we are still on the air.
Yeah, we've got hail that is falling throughout this storm system, the multiple cells that are moving their way toward the east here. High winds, as you guys have been mentioning here, and all of our viewing area right now still under a tornado watch.
Yes.
Many specific areas under a warning right now.
And we know that this will be going on until at least 10 o'clock tonight, right, Tom?
Well, it'll be over by 10 o'clock.
Well, it'll be over by 10 o'clock.
Yeah. By the way, that warning just issued, to give you an idea, some of the actual communities involved, Des Plaines, Schaumburg, Roselle, Arlington Heights, Buffalo Grove, Half Day, Highland Park, Winnetka, Evanston, Lake Forest, Wells Corners, Mundelein, and Lake Zurich, all under the tornado warning just issued. And by the way, the severe thunderstorm warning in effect for Cook County, the rest of the county, mentions the potential for 70 mile per hour winds, quarter-sized hail, and these storms are moving at 45 miles an hour. But that warning is, the thunderstorm warning is in effect until 8:15. Actually, it says here.
So they'll extend that one probably.
Yeah.
So that tornado warning goes all the way to the lake, all across northern Cook County, all the way to the lake.
And by the way, the nature of the line, what's coming into that area is a squall line. It's a bowed squall line, and that's where you get these little spin-up tornadoes that are short-lived many times, but damaging. And so there is not quite the lead time on those that you get on some other ones. So I think that's why when a line has a history, the feeling on the part of the meteorologists at the Weather Service who put these warnings out are, let's just extrapolate based on the history of this storm into a given area, and make sure folks are aware of the potential of the storm and the fact that the line has a history of producing damaging thunderstorms and tornadoes.
It's a good time to remind folks that there is a ground stop at both Midway and O'Hare airports. There are metro delays. If you're planning on going out tonight or anyone coming in, they will be delayed.
Yes. And here we've got, this is a kind of a composite of the warnings. The orange areas are the thunderstorm warnings in effect. Here are these tornado warnings we've been talking about. Northern DuPage County, northern sections of Cook County, southern Lake County. So there it is. This is the tornado warning area. There's a bowed line, a line like that is racing into that area now that's had a history of spinning up these little tornadoes. We have all kinds of fancy terms in meteorology. We call them QLCS tornadoes. But what they are is they're little tornadoes that spin up on a bowed line, and that's what's coming into this region right up in here. And, of course, we've got just active thunderstorms with lightning and wind and so forth racing into this area. The tornado watch in the yellow areas is in effect till 10 o'clock tonight. I would suspect by 10 o'clock the city will be clear of most of the storms. And it'll be northwest Indiana. You folks will be last to see these things exit, as so often is the case. But, up till now, most of the warnings have been, along the I-80 corridor and northward, roughly. So that seems to be where a lot of the damage has occurred. You get down to Kankakee, Iroquois, Grundy. That's not to say this air is juicy, it's humid, buoyant, completely capable of supporting thunderstorms. But we haven't had a lot of damage or severe weather reports there.
Report, Tom, of a tornado that touched down right near Waubonsee Community College out in Aurora area. So there was reports of damage to trees, power poles, and fencing over at the community college, likely out there from a tornado. That's from a storm chaser.
Wow. Bill, I see our weather bug time lapses here. Do we? Yeah. Guys, we ought to cue these up and just show you some weather bug cameras that have been tracking these storms coming in. We'll get them set up here.
While he's doing that, let's leave this radar up and throw the key up here so I can just kind of let folks know exactly what we're talking about, because DuPage County is really getting cut up in a big way right now.
That's coming in like a wall.
So what we're seeing here, I mean, this is a squall line that means business. I mean, we have seen.
It is.
Yeah, we're gonna, the potential, I believe we said, are in the warning for 70-mile-per-hour winds. If you see it, you're going to see it here across portions of DuPage County as this line moves through, especially where it bows. There is a tornado warning for this area there. This thing is peculiar. This whole thing, it almost looks like a low pressure system with a warm front there and a cold front there.
Does.
It looks exactly, and the center there. But what we're seeing is this line which is pushing through. When we see this, it's a severe thunderstorm warning, not a tornado warning. And sometimes folks hear that it's not a tornado warning and they think that it's not as dangerous a situation.
Oh, no.
No, you're talking straight line winds in this case, and it takes us a lot of times days to figure out if it was a tornado or a straight line winds, okay? So this could be a very damaging line, and it encompasses all of DuPage County, eventually headed towards the Will County area at this time. So if you're watching us in DuPage County, especially eastern DuPage County, get inside. You will be looking at probably some very powerful, damaging winds, severe winds, 58 miles per hour or more. Here is where we'd be looking at possibly maybe a QLCS. Like Tom said, maybe the National Weather Service is just saying, you know what, everything's rotating. We're seeing a bunch of tornadoes. We're just going, we're playing this safe. Tornado warning goes all the way from portions of western Cook County all the way to the lake into through portions of southern Lake County, probably south of Libertyville area. But here is where we're expecting to see some strong straight line winds. I don't know if that's going to be turned into a hook, but it's a very still moist atmosphere. I don't have the temperatures right now, but I suspect that we're probably and Tom, you can tell me here, but probably in the 50s here, 60s here, but probably probably in the upper 60s still in this area, in this part of our viewing area.
Yeah. Well, if you take the computer, look at this. Midway's at 69 now. Wow. It's 66 at O'Hare, 66 Kankakee, Joliet at 68. You go out west of the line, 58 Aurora, 53 DeKalb, And if you go a little farther west than that, boy, it's a lot cooler than that. I'll tell you that. The cold air is rushing in. Give you an idea how the temps have dropped. Wow. It's 66 in Chicago, 42 Dubuque, 26 Des Moines, 14 Mason City out in western north central Iowa, and single digits on the thermometer.
Is there
in
any
Minnesota.
wonder why we're getting powerful storms to develop in this type of setup?
Yeah.
I mean, my goodness.
And by the way,
a potpourri of temperatures.
Yeah,
We've
and
got some video, guys, we want to show
good.
you real quick.
okay.
All right, where's this video from again, Sam? This is McHenry County, Island Lake. Oh, wow. There's that light show you were talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about the damaging winds, potential damage from the tornado. We have reports of trees, power poles, and fencing that is down at Wabansie Community College. I think you guys referred to that a little bit earlier here. Where are the storms as that is now related?
They are pressing east of that area. Still
Yes.
rain, but I believe that area is not under a tornado warning anymore.
No, it's over now.
Demetrius, what's a QLC?
QLCS, quasi-linear convective system.
Yeah.
Okay.
Micah, there's a test on this after the broadcast
yeah, I'm taking
tonight.
notes.
We call them spin-ups. A tornado. It's usually a weaker tornado would probably develop if you see where the word wheeling is. And Mike, I love that you asked me that right on live TV. If I said I have no idea.
Well, you answered it. So.
Yeah.
So
It's
typically,
actually a test for you.
typically these are weaker scale tornadoes, and it's kind of I think it's more of it's a wind speed thing.
You get these little eddies. Is what
eddies.
happens as the air gushes out the front of the storm. These little eddies develop. And, they look like tornadoes and they act like tornadoes, but they aren't the conventional tornado. But we've come to realize these are damaging.
But how is that different than a derecho?
A derecho is a squall line that travels over 1,000 miles oftentimes and does damage the whole way.
Oh.
We saw that the other August. That one started out in South Dakota and Nebraska and moved all the way almost out to the East Coast. And it damaged the whole way. It wiped out I think it was half the corn crop in Iowa. It's considered the most expensive squall line ever to sweep the United States. And that was the one that came through Chicago on an August day back
I remember that
couple
day.
years.
Rogers Park was hit really hard with
August,
that.
yeah.
Exactly. Trees were down all over the place.
Yeah.
And now this is interesting. You see, you can see the lightning out to the east. I don't know where
It's
they
like
are.
Rosemont area, I think.
Yeah, and
Still to the east, still west of that area.
So we're looking
would
up
be mine.
north now we're seeing the top of the storms that are in Lake County.
yes,
If this is, I believe we're headed north, and if we're in Rosemont. So,
yeah, we'll see a sign here. And we'll be able
so,
to tell.
if we're headed south, we're looking into DuPage County, but I believe, well, there you go. Either way,
Right headed towards O'Hare, I think. There's
Yeah.
Andrea Medina.
tell us where you are.
Hi, Andrea.
But notice here the difference. As we look at the wind detection,
Yeah.
we're not seeing these couplets
No.
so much.
It's just a wall.
That is wind,
a
though.
line.
I
wind
mean,
shift line.
DuPage County is, whenever we get those weather bugs, they're not going to be able to see much because, of course, it's nighttime. But we have one in Glen Ellen.
Yeah.
We have one in, the Hinsdale one, that's probably too far east right now. But we,
DuPage County, Glen Ellen.
yes.
I'm gonna flip over real quick. I have our weather bug camera in DeKalb and at Crystal Lake as the storm went through. So let me pull this up here, guys.
Yeah. If we go over
can
to,
show go to
there
Max
it is.
too.
Yeah. This is
Kinda
from
see this.
NIU out of DeKalb.
Watch the line as it goes through here. But we'll
It's
configure
late at
this.
night, but you see the visibility reduction and so forth. There it is
There's the time.
as the sun
see that.
setting.
Look at that. Wow.
Yeah.
You can see the
Boom.
light.
Here
that was
comes
quick.
the wall of rain.
So that gives
Yeah.
you an idea of the dangers of, this is why folks should heed warnings, because you can't see that coming. Visibility dropped to almost zero there.
Yeah. Yep, that's exactly. And
That's
then on top of
precision.
that, you're in traffic and lightning's flashing all around you. Look at the lightning there. Here are some rainfall totals. Ray, you were asking about that?
So moving in on an inch.
There's Sycamore, Crystal Lake, 3/4 of an inch. West Chicago, 1/4 inch. Mundelein, about 1/3 of an inch. Yeah. Boy, I'll tell you one thing. This weather bug system we've got is amazing.
Just got a report, Tom. 1 mile to the southwest of Inverness, reports of a possible tornado north of I-90 in Schaumburg. So that's another area that is that line. We saw it on radar as it's moving into that area to northwestern Cook County, a possible tornado touchdown.
And a couple
make
more
six?
hail reports. 1-inch diameter, 4 miles east-southeast of Aurora. 1-inch diameter, just south-southwest of Hoffman Estates. And 1-inch diameter hail just 3 miles south-southeast of East Dundee. So, boy, Huntley has had 1-inch diameter hail from this during the evening.
So this is 6 possible tornadoes thus far.
Maybe
Yeah.
more.
Maybe more? We
It's
just
going to be
don't know.
days before, I think, before we know. I think we have 6, maybe around that confirmed, but
Yeah.
Yes. And you talked about that line as it was moving through DeKalb. I've got the Northern Illinois cameras up. They still have the lights on. So we've been monitoring ComEd to find out about the power outages. They are all still lit up there out at Northern Illinois.
Awesome. That's good news indeed. I'll tell you, the crews at ComEd are amazing. They watch the weather really carefully. And, they'll hire private meteorological services that warn about the potential for damage and have crews standing by so they can dispatch them quickly in these power outage situations. But, yeah, look at that. But here, Micah, you're wondering, here's the wall right there. And by the way, look at these little wind vectors. They speak volumes. Here we are in the south winds, and there's like a northwest wind ramming right into them. And it's right along this convergence line where the winds pile up that you get these thunderstorms to well up. And boy, when we get into this northwest flow, it's Katie bar the door. It's going to get cold and fast. And we'll get some snow to come down behind that system.
So just back to the warnings, and I know that
I'll pull that back up
I
here
know
on
everybody's
Max, too.
getting everything together, but we have a tornado warning.
There's our live camera,
There-
by the way, looking out at O'Hare here from Allstate Arena in Rosemont, so you can
So you can
that.
see, I mean, it's coming down.
And
It's coming down.
And that's in the tornado warning
Ground
right
stop
now.
at O'Hare. We
Yep.
have a tornado warning, which remains in effect for northern Cook County, southern
bring it
Lake
up
County
right now
until
here.
8:30. It goes all the way to the lake. So you can see,
There it
actually,
is.
you know what? It's been moved a little bit to the
Northeast.
yeah, so I don't know if it even covers Lake or Cook County. Maybe right up
Still
along
in a
Lake Cook Road.
thunderstorm warning, but
so
you're
probably
right.
Lake Cook Road to all points north.
Right.
So
Guys, take a break for a second. We're going to check in with Andrea Medina, who is driving towards the north area, towards Aurora. What are you seeing, Andrea?
Yeah, hey guys, we're on I-90 right now and we're headed towards the Elgin area, but as you can see, the roads are very wet out here. We have seen some lightning. We've also been hearing, we've heard and seen some hail as well. The winds are pretty strong because as we're driving in our truck, we can feel the winds kind of moving the vehicle. So yeah, visibility out here is not great right now, especially with all this rain coming down. But for the most part, we're just going to continue keeping track on the road conditions. But for now, if people don't really have to be out on the roads or have to go anywhere urgently, we definitely advise people to stay off these roads because visibility is pretty rough right now with all this rain coming down. And again, with the roads just being very wet and slippery. We'll send things back to you guys.
Just out of curiosity, gauge your speed for us. How fast are you guys going right now? You know?
We're going about 40 miles per hour.
yeah, that's what I thought.
So we're not. I mean, we're going under the speed limit out here.
And what are the winds like? I mean, we can see the rain, we don't see hail, but it sounds very loud. What do the winds feel like? I know you're not driving.
Well, I think, yeah, you don't really feel the winds right now. Just maybe 10, 15 minutes ago, you kind of did feel the truck just kind of shaking the vehicle. But I mean, for the most part, right now, it's under control.
And we're still watching the lightning. All right, Andrea, we'll let you continue your travels there, hopefully safely. Right now, we want to check in with Jenna Barnes is on the phone with us. She is out covering these storms. Jenna, if you can hear me, tell us where you are and what you're seeing right now.
Hi, Ray. Yes, we are out headed towards the Geneva area. We're on East State Street, 38. We've been heading this direction pretty much straight west from the southwest side of the city for the past hour or so. And on this route, the lightning has just been lighting up the sky the entire drive here. As we drove through Winfield and Wheaton, though, that is when the intensity really picked up. Cloud to ground lightning bolts that made both me and the photographer Hector, who's driving this live truck, jump. We also went through a period of extremely heavy rain. We could even feel and hear hail hitting the live truck. But now, right where we are, we're at Kirk Road and East State Street. We just pulled over at a gas station. It's really calm. It's just drizzling. So we've kind of just gotten a mix of every weather condition we really can on this drive out west.
You know, guys, it's interesting. The wind will hit like a wall when it happens. Hey, I've put together some graphics here. First of all, here's where we are on the warnings. Orange areas, thunderstorm warnings, tornado warning in effect up in Lake County. That's the last of the tornado warnings at the moment. And here's what's happening. We'll go from 74 down to 23 by morning with a wind chill of 8 above here in Chicago. Let me go back to that, too, because I looked around. How unusual is it to lose 51 degrees? Well, the biggest temperature drop we've had in Chicago was back November 10th and 11th, 1911. We went from 74 down to 13. So we're going to get pretty close to doing that tomorrow, not quite that extreme. And these are, I believe, current temps. Look at the cooling going on out to the west, and that's just the beginning. And also look at the Doppler reading on where there are rotating cells at this point. What's kind of interesting, watch this. You'll see how this line develops. You see that?
Wow.
And it just kind of curls up at the top. And then you get that line that's speeding into Cook County right now. It's roaring across DuPage County and up into Lake County right now. So that's how these things evolve. And let's see, I think I've got, there's lightning. Boy, the lightning has shown no sign of ebbing right along the key line. So we're going to have a heck of a light show, and already are having one in parts of Cook County. We certainly are in DeKalb County, and it's coming into Cook County right now and up in Lake County in Indiana. And there are the icons. That's where the tornadoes that have been actually spotted are occurring. And notice how they line up almost in a linear sort of fashion, oriented from southwest to northeast. So it's clear these cells have been dropping tornadoes as they go along. They aren't necessarily the same cells. You get other cells to bubble up next to a cell that is producing a tornado and go on to produce their own tornadoes. But you kind of get an idea where the tornadoes that have occurred tonight are occurring. And essentially it runs from, Lee County across DeKalb County, Kane County. It looks like maybe northwestern Cook County has had a tornado reported. So and they're the Hill reports.
Wow. Hey, you know what? We do have, whenever we can run them in the control room, we do have our cameras. If they look west or north,
yeah.
And we have one here at our station too. I think that looks west. Anytime you guys want to put some of those up, we're going to start to see here in Chicago. We're going to start to see the tops of these storms and the lightning associated with them very soon, especially anything that looks north and potentially west. You know, right now DuPage County is getting the worst of this.
Well, I'll tell you another thing too, Demetrius. There's lots of lightning coming into western Cook County right now too, and the heart of the city will be getting into this shortly.
Guys, if we get a quick shift to Max 2 for a second, our live camera out of O'Hare, you can understand why there's a ground stoppage right now at the airport. This is really something. I mean, this is live right now. You can see the rains coming down horizontally with gusty winds, and lightning flashing in between here. So this is really a powerful line of storms here that's going to continue for the next hour or so.
And that'll be snow in the next couple of hours. When you think about it.
Overnight, yeah. We're changing seasons here. We're going to marry about 3 seasons in about 24 hours for Tom's departure.
This is the strangest weather of life.
It really is.
It is.
Yeah. So one tornado warning that's in Lake County that looks like it's, I'd say it's probably Lake Zurich and all as you travel
That's
all
near
the way
Crystal
to
Lake right there.
This is a live look near Crystal Lake. So in that area we've had reports of hail. That tornado warning goes all the way to the lake in Lake County. So that would be the Highland Park area. Highwood, those areas, probably Lake Forest also, all into those areas. You're under the tornado warning. Okay, here we are looking, one of our cameras. You can see the tops of these storms. I believe, we're looking west, right? It's pretty clear we're looking west, and it may be south. Well, look at that. You can see the storms as they create all this lightning. And as Tom, as you mentioned, they're showing no signs of letting up
No.
this lightning.
No, this line will make it right out over the lake and through the city without diminishing much. But still looks like 10 o'clock. It's kind of over. Oh, there's an interesting shot. Wow. You know,
That's Eddie's one of our reliable storm chasers. Out
well,
in the field.
look at that, guys.
Oswego.
We may be watching. It looks like there's a low hanging. That could be a low hanging vortex.
Is that multiple tornadoes or is it one giant one?
Good question, Ray. It certainly looks like there are a couple of tails there, doesn't it? It looks like there's one big one. Now look at this as time goes
it's
on.
reaching the ground.
That thing is, sinking. That isolated lowering, by the way, that's a feature known as a wall cloud. And what goes on there is the air is being drawn up into the thunderstorm in that region of the cloud with great speed. So the air around it rushes in to fill in for it and then begins rising in that updraft, and you get a rotation, and that's what spins up a tornado. Downbursts are air falling out of thunderstorms. Tornadoes are air rushing up into thunderstorms. And so you've got air movement, but in different directions, creating the winds that do the damage. And of course, tornadoes produce rotary sort of damage, whereas downbursts be like taking a garden hose that's running and point the stream of water at the ground. When the downburst, when the water hits the ground, it sprays out in all directions. That's what a downburst does. It falls out of a thunderstorm cloud, hits the ground, and fans out in all directions. And if you're near it, it feels like you're getting hit with a straight line wind, but what really has happened is the air has dropped out of the cloud, hit the ground, and fanned out. I remember Ted Fujita always used to use that comparison, a garden hose running, pointed at the ground.
And they are terrifying.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
They've been known to flatten entire forests. This notion that tornadoes are the only things that do damage it doesn't work. I mean, fact is, a microburst and a downburst can do every bit the damage a tornado can do. And so they're not to be taken lightly.
Our own Larry Potash let us know that in Lake County, Lake Forest in that area, they're seeing hail at this time. So that area under a tornado warning, southern Lake County under a tornado warning until 8:30.
Okay, that's the northwest suburbs that we're heading through right now.
Yeah.
Also reports of 65 mile per hour wind gusts in Rolling Meadows as this line of storms move through. So that certainly likely did some damage there. 56 miles per hour in Batavia, Inverness. Again, potentially a tornado that touched down near Inverness. Worth noting, and Tom had been talking about this on broadcasts here for the past couple of days, noting how rare thunderstorms and tornado-producing thunderstorm cells are in the month of February. If that did in fact produce a tornado, that would be the first confirmed tornado in Cook County in the month of February on record since tornado records began in 1950. So this is really, really rare stuff.
Yeah.
Usually takes a couple of days to find that out, right?
Yes.
Well, Michael, what they do is the survey crews at the Weather Service, and yes, that's true. They, after the storm has passed, can get the Doppler radar to spit out all the circulations that have occurred throughout the entire storm, and they look at they can see circulation tracks, which often mark the way the tornado has moved, and then they dispatch people not only in response to reports of damage, but they will look at where these circulation tracks have been detected by the Doppler radar in doing post-storm analyses, and then they go out and confirm that there was in fact damage or not damage in those areas.
Yeah, and they do that with the benefit of daylight, obviously, right?
Absolutely.
And this may be a question for you, Bill. You were giving us some reports that the National Weather Service was passing along where damage was concerned. We talked specifically at Waubonsee Community College where they had trees and power lines down, fences down. Anything more to add?
No, Ray, that was out near the Aurora area at Waubonsee College, but likely from a storm chaser reported a possible tornado down there. So that's one area that we've been watching closely. And then, of course, another area near Palatine where the 65 mile per hour wind gusts. And these are just most recently with this line of storms. And so we're keeping a close tabs on portions of southern Lake County with that tornado warning that expires in about 30 minutes from now.
And that's where WGN's Jenna Barnes is. What are you seeing, Jenna?
Hi, Micah. We are at the intersection of East State Street and Kirk Road out toward Geneva. We're actually on our way towards Waubonsee Community College to try and check out some of that damage and see what we can see from the ground. Right here, it's calm. It's the calmest we've seen it since we started on this trek out west. For the longest time, we had a bunch of lightning lighting up the clouds, some cloud-to-ground bolts, and no rain. And then once we hit Wheaton, Winfield, we saw extremely heavy downpours and even some hail. Now that we're back out towards Geneva, though, it's almost as if nothing has happened. It's not even drizzling at the moment. So many changes in just about an hour or two.
By the way, guys, it's interesting you say that, Jenna. Think about air movement. When it seems calm to us, very often you're in a region where the movement of the air has gone vertical. And so instead of blowing horizontally as wind, the air is rising in that location. So it doesn't appear to us the wind is blowing. You used to read accounts, you still read accounts of tornadoes. Everybody said it goes calm before the storm hits. And you think, that's kind of interesting. And you also hear that the air feels very heavy. Well, what's going on there many times is the air is being sucked up into the thunderstorm cloud, no longer is moving horizontally. And the reason it feels heavy is because the air has been rushing in to fill in for the air rising up there, and you get a concentration of moisture there that you literally can feel as a heaviness to the air. What will happen as the evening wears on is that area of upward vertical motion will shift off to the east. It will get into the backside northwest wind flow, and those winds will lock in with a vengeance, much as the winds whose gusts we were reporting with the storms did out ahead of the storms as the air was gushing out of the storm that was coming in. So, we don't think of air moving vertically, but it does. When you see an H on a weather map, a high pressure, that's where the air is sinking, and it's therefore raising the air pressure down at the bottom that's measured by a barometer. When you see a low pressure, like in a hurricane or a storm like this one centered in northern Wisconsin, the air is rising, and the rising air reduces that pressure at the surface, and your barometer registers a fall. So it tells you a great deal about where the vertical motions are when you look at whether the wind is blowing at the moment. And a period of calm shouldn't be interpreted as nothing going on, even though it seems to us very calm at that time. There can be a lot of upward motion of the air that's fueling the storm to begin with.
Wow, look at that. Okay, Bill, if we can take a look at a radar, I want to give folks an idea of what's coming their way. And if we could do this on the chroma key, that would be great. That way, first off, shaded in red, that is the only tornado warning that we have. Let's throw that in motion if we can. But thank you. He's reading my mind. All right, so this area here, I'd say from Mundelein, if you take a line from Mundelein and go right up across 94 all the way to the lake, that's where that area is under a tornado warning. That does include Lake Forest and looks like the Highland Park area. This line here, making its way into Cook County, severe thunderstorm warning through Cook County, excuse me. This is right on, if you're watching us from Chicago, if your place faces west, you know what's coming your way. This is a wall of water, a wall of wind, lots of lightning. It goes all the way down into portions of Will County, Joliet, New Lenox, Frankfort, Mokina, those areas. That's like kind of the tail southern end of this thing. Powerful winds will come your way. The tornadic threat, at least, we think is probably right here where we're talking kind of the bookend of the squall line. But strong winds are going to make their way through this area coming very shortly. And this is the city of Chicago. So if you are in Chicago, we have some powerful, maybe severe winds. And we've seen winds upwards of 60 plus miles per hour with storms that have pressed through earlier. We're going to see winds which will probably be close to that or somewhere around that as you get through the city of Chicago. It's just beginning to rain there across some of, probably on the, as you're talking West Loop, some of the near west suburbs. The lightning goes all the way back to DuPage County. If you live in extreme southeastern DuPage County, you're still kind of getting the worst of this. We're showing you here where the heaviest part of the storm is going to be. It'll be raining before that, and winds can pick up, if you get a gust front, can pick up well before this, well before you get to this area of the storm. But Edgewater, so making its way to the lake by 8:12, Chicago 8:18, Jeffrey Manor by 8:28, and this line does go south all the way down into portions of Will County at this time. There's another line which is developed by Rockford that is storm warned right now. But as you can see, the kind of spin in this thing is here, right where we have that tornado warning for Lake County. Goes all the way down, though. You can see down into Joliet and portions of Will County at this time. Not a tornado warning for you. It's a tornado watch and a severe thunderstorm warning as you get into Cook County. But if you're watching us from Chicago and you've been wondering, why we're on and it's not affecting you, it is now going to affect you. A powerful thunderstorm storm that means business is coming right through portions of central Cook County, making its way all the way through Chicago and tapping into, as Tom mentioned earlier, some very unstable air. Temperatures on one side of this feature there, 50s. On the other side of this feature, 60s, upper 60s in some areas, or I believe at least dew point temperatures are in the 60s right now. So we do have a lot of energy to tap into, maybe not tornadic, but at least straight line winds as a problem coming our way. So that's just what's going on with our radar.
Guys, I've got some wind gusts. Just let me run down some of these. We cite the 60-mile-an-hour gusts like the one out at West Chicago and the 63 at Sugar Grove. Here are some other gusts that have occurred with these storms. 43 Carpentersville, 45 at Schaumburg, 44 miles per hour at Wheeling, 41 miles per hour Chicago O'Hare, 46 miles per hour down at Calumet Harbor and out at the Crib, 46 mile per hour wind gusts. So that gives you a sampling of some of the other wind gusts. Here's a 44 mile per hour gust that passed earlier this evening in Geneva. So it looks like the peak wind gusts run anywhere from 35 to 63 miles an hour, and that's not taking into account, some downbursts that may be going on in other places and haven't even been measured. The potential, given the lion's movement and all, is that you could get some local 60 and 70 mile an hour wind gusts. So yeah, it's a pretty impressive little line around here.
You guys are talking about it being a light show tonight. This is a compilation of thunder, lightning strikes from our cameras across Illinois.
And it's all put together sort of in a time lapse to give you an idea of what it looked like at the height there. We're watching the clock. It's 8 minutes past 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
8:30 is when what expires, or do you anticipate it going beyond that?
Let's see. We've got the tornado warning in effect in Lake County goes to 8:30. That's when that expires. The thunderstorm warning currently in effect in Cook County expires at 8:15.
But that thunderstorm's about 4 miles away from Chicago at this point.
So it'll probably get extended.
Yeah, and but anyway, those are the active warnings. And what will likely happen is, there'll be a special marine warning issued, and we may even get. Looks like the tail of this squall line may affect parts of Lake County, Indiana. So it'll be interesting to see if a warning is extended into that region right there.
Tom, not to lessen the severity of these storms at all in any way, shape, or form, but aren't you going to miss this, informing the folks about what's going on severe weather nights?
Well, I'll tell you something. Nothing stops me from watching it. That's for sure.
He's not done
fascinating.
yet. We'll be calling you.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Well, there may
We've got
be
Tom Skilling on the phone right now to give us a rundown.
There may be some instances where I run in and help these guys if they need some help. That's why I tell everybody they're not putting me 6 feet under. I'll still be in the area. Bill is laughing because he's wishing they would put me 6 feet under.
You're just a font of information.
We'll put your number on air, Tom.
I'm a font of something.
We'll put your number on air just in case folks want to know more information.
Demetrius. That's lovely. I'll tell you, just for that, you get a Tom Skilling bobblehead.
Right? 1-800-SKILLING. We'll put that in rotation.
We've got a great team here, I'll tell you, between Demetrius and Snyder, and we've got Morgan Kolkmeyer, we've got Paul in the morning, we've got Tim Joyce, and Mike Jansen. What a team. So, believe me, a lot of really solid meteorology going on in this office.
And we know they are watching from home. At least Morgan was a little while ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Morgan, we've got to let her get some sleep. She's up at heaven knows what hour of the morning every morning, so.
Guys, if we go over real quick to Max 2, we just to show you that line of storms is still producing some large hail. If we can click over real quick, and Demetrius will jump in on this too. We've got the vertically integrated. So you could see that even if the southern end of that storm is not producing a tornado, it's certainly gushing out strong winds, and it's also producing hail, likely that can do some damage to roofs on houses and some and cars and so forth. So that's certainly something you want to keep in mind as that moves into the heart of central and southern Cook County.
So this isn't weakening at all right now?
Not yet.
It's amazing, Mike. It's held on to its strength pretty strongly. But, and that's a testament to all the energy tied up in all that moisture and warmth that was in the air. To keep a storm viable, you want buoyancy in the air, and moisture contributes to that. So does warmth, and then you can get kinematics. You can get winds that are colliding. That's another source of upward motion in the atmosphere. You want to keep the air rising for some reason to keep these towering cumulonimbus clouds that parent these thunderstorms in place.
Tom, we have the undersheriff of Kane County on the line right now. Amy?
Yes.
Hi, what are you seeing out there?
I am actually seeing just the aftermath of where we're at in Kane County. So I'm seeing a lot of trees, debris, and just, of course, wires down right now.
No injuries?
No injuries. Luckily, 100% reported no injuries.
Awesome.
So how are you guys coping with what the aftermath now? I mean, do you have reports of power outages, extensive damage in places that you want folks to know about?
We are actually still tallying up everything else. Luckily, there's no extensive damage that we have. We just have intermittent power outages. The last reported was at Norris Road and Denny Road also, but that's, again, intermittent. Waubonsee Community College at one point lost power. I'm hoping that they're back on again. I haven't received a report of that, but again, very intermittent, back on and off again. We have extra manpower for our deputies on the roadway again now to take the remainder of the calls from our afternoon shift into midnight.
What about the rain? Any flooding concerns right now that you're noticing?
As of right now, no. And usually we have those intermittent areas that, as of always, will flood.
Sure.
And I'm looking at our CAD system, which is our computer animated system, and a knock on wood, we do not have any reports of that significant flooding.
Awesome.
What do we know about the damage at Waubonsee?
Damage at Waubonsee, again, it's just power lines. I do not have any structural damage, and just trees down, luckily, with those students there.
It's very good to hear. And good luck with you guys. Take care of yourselves out there, okay?
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, we know that it hit that area pretty hard. Thankfully, right now, no injuries in that area from what we're hearing, Tom.
Yeah, that's true. Micah, if you go back to the Max 1 here, I put together a composite of all the advisories that and the storm reports that have come in. It's quite interesting. Let me see here. Is this running right now, guys? Let me see. Well, there are the warnings. You can see the last warnings are no tornado warnings. They're thunderstorm warnings at this point. And there is the temp drop that we expect. And there are the temperatures. This is interesting.
Wow,
look how warm it is at Midway still and 64 at Lansing. We've got the 50s going. That's just the beginning of the cool off out by the Fox Valley.
15
but
degrees
here,
warmer at Midway.
Yeah, isn't that something? Won't be long for this world, though. That cooler air is coming. There's the radar. But here's the lightning, still very vigorous. You know, Micah, you look at this and you see the vigor with which the storms are producing lightning. That's one way to gauge the intensity of these things. When that starts ebbing, then you know you're watching weakening of the storms. But here I've laid in all the icons. These are all the ground-based severe weather reports. Little blue symbols with dots in them. Those are hail reports.
Oh, it looks like a beast. I mean, I see at least 9 icons for the tornadoes.
I don't think it's quite 9, but that's not to say there haven't been 9. And it'll be interesting to see the post-storm analysis on that and the Doppler data. But we certainly have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, it's hard to count.
Yeah, about 7 or 8.
Okay. Well, I'm close.
Yeah, it's not bad. But isn't that interesting? Watch, you see as that line passes how the reports show up. And you can see how they're all clustered along that same corridor right there.
Let's check in with Jenna real quick, Tom, see what she's seeing out there. Jenna, where are you exactly?
Hi, Micah. We're approaching Sugar Grove. We're headed to Waubonsee Community College to check out the reports of damage there from a possible tornado. Here, the rain has stopped. We are seeing a bit of patchy fog on the ground as we drive, which is really interesting.
Yeah, that'll go away fast, Jenna.
It'll go away fast.
Yeah. Yeah, with that wind that's going to come in shortly.
Hope you brought a winter coat.
Yeah.
I did bring a winter coat.
Okay, you're going to need it.
And a strong umbrella.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With these winds out there. What was some of the, I think we're trying to get some of your video. We're looking at your live driving shot. This is the video. Okay, so this is when the rains were coming down as when you were making your way to Waubonsee. What else did you notice about this drive here? What were the winds like?
The winds, I was just talking to photographer Hector, who's behind the wheel. about how intense the winds were and how it was difficult to operate the live truck on this drive when we were in the thick of it. That was right around the Winfield area, and the visibility was incredibly low. It was hard to see out of the windshield as we were driving because of the heavy rain, some hail that we could hear on the live truck. And that was really the most intense part of the drive. For quite a while before that, we could see the lightning up ahead illuminating the a while to really get into it. And we were in that intensity for only maybe 10 minutes before we emerged from the other side with only a bit of light drizzle. It's been, quite frankly, a fascinating drive test storm chasing tonight.
Well, glad you're okay, and we'll let you get back to it, and we'll check in with you in a little bit. Let's talk about what we've been seeing at O'Hare and at Midway right now. The total number of cancellations at O'Hare are 23, 5 at Midway. As far as the delays are going from the ground stoppage that was reported there, 25 minutes. That's the average at O'Hare, and 17 minutes at Midway because of these storms.
And I can't stress enough, City of Chicago, it is time to get inside. It's coming your way. As Tom showed those hail reports, if you notice, they go as far south as almost I-80, so we don't expect for that to let up. These storms are going to be hitting downtown Chicago, the Loop, the most highly populated portion of our viewing and listening area very shortly. So, keep that in mind. These are not the type of storms. You're not under a tornado warning, but you're talking about a severe thunderstorm warning, which could be hail, severe hail, which can be quite dangerous. Strong winds also.
Demetrius, explain again, because I think people sometimes they're looking for tornadoes. That's
right.
When they should get scared. But these thunderstorms are just as scary.
A 58 plus mile per hour wind. That's when you're talking about snapping some power lines potentially. That's when you're talking about, it's good that we don't, it's weird that it's February and we don't have any leaves on the trees, but that's where, you could be knocking down things like that, especially, if you're outside. You're going to have things blowing off people's balconies. You could have all types of, things like that. Once that gust front comes through. We have some video from Schaumburg right now, and you can see that if raining, these storms were moving at 20 miles per hour. So the localized pooling and ponding would have been an issue earlier. This is near 390. Notice either that that light string is either protected from the winds, or it's just not very windy. Typically you just look to see if things are blowing around. So it wasn't very windy when that line came through, but the rain was coming down in buckets. So now this thing has kind of changed. We went from what was kind of a number of supercells that were just following each other to now this weird, or not weird, but this wicked squall line that continues to come through, and is going to be packing powerful winds probably all the way through portions, probably all the way to I-80 and a little bit south. So it's kind of changed what we're talking about. We were talking about at 5:30. It's not what we're talking about now. This is hail from Crystal Lake earlier today, and you can see that it was coming down pretty good. Right.
Yeah, you were mentioning power outages, and we've got a couple of them. We've got at least 6,528 customers have been affected, a total right now 4 million and of the customers that are served, but we've got active outages at 38 right now, mostly in the west and north, which is where we've been kind of centering this storm.
Yeah, Mike, I want to add that we've gotten reports of an 82 mile per hour wind gust as that line of storms moved through Palatine. A private weather station reported an 82 mile per hour gust. So my goodness, that certainly had to do some damage as that moved through there. And of course, we're also getting reports of ping pong to golf ball size hail as this line moved through. So even if you were fortunate enough to escape without seeing a tornado, you did not escape the strong winds, you did not escape the hail, and you did not escape the brief heavy downpours.
And it's interesting. I'm looking at where these backside winds are. They're crossing the Mississippi right now. You go out to Davenport, they've got near 40 mile an hour wind gusts, and they rise to 45 miles an hour out by Waterloo, Iowa. So that's the cold air coming in. The winds are gusting only to 20 at Rockford and 21 at Utica. And then you go out to Dubuque and Quad Cities, you're anywhere from 30 to 40. And then you go into Iowa and you got low and mid 40 degree winds. And the temps are dropping precipitously too. So that's what comes in the rest of the night. We're down to Let's see, we've got 52 up at Wheeling now. That's the air temp now. That's how much it's dropped. It was in the mid-70s. But you go out to eastern Iowa, well, Des Moines is down to 21, and we've got 10 going at Mason City. So, boy, it ought to be interesting to watch these temps go down the rest of the night.
I do want to chime in that Lake County tornado warning has been allowed to expire or canceled. So we have no tornado warnings in the area, active tornado warnings in the area at this time. The severe thunderstorm warning for southern Cook County remains in effect for 38 minutes.
And you know what else is interesting? Folks viewing us down south, as you get down toward Kankakee and, south there toward Iroquois and LaSalle counties, no reports of any damage in there. It was that one corridor that came right up through the Chicago area. Remember, we were talking about that earlier, how this seemed to be making a beeline toward the city and Cook County. And if you look at the distribution of the storm reports, that's exactly what's happened. You go south, and we haven't had many storm reports right now. And even in northwest Indiana, there are a couple cells popping up. But as yet, I would suspect Lake County may be getting in on some action very soon. But you go south of that to Jasper and Newton counties and south toward Kankakee County, areas like that, no big deal there.
Tom, I wanted to show you here. We're still waiting for confirmation on permission from a storm chaser, but this is a view of the tornado near Hoffman Estates. As you can see that.
That is on the ground.
That is on the ground, and that is our first official confirmed tornadoes in Cook County in the month of February since at least 1950. So this is really, really rare, unprecedented territory here, folks.
Yeah.
And these are multiple cells, right? So what I want to ask is, we're watching the storm make its trek across the northern portion of the state. It wasn't really what we know as training, right? That's where you talk about multiple systems that are kind of going through each other's path and dumping rain in substantial amounts.
It really was training. But the thing is, with mid-50 dew points, that means the atmosphere had moisture in it. But it wasn't loaded. When you get up in that really muggy air in summer, that's where you can really tap the moisture and rain it out. And if you look at the way the storms were oriented for a while, they were feeding over the same strip of real estate, oriented from southwest to northeast. We just, in this particular situation, this had not been expected to be a mammoth rain producer. I mean, thunderstorms do that for a period of time, but it's not the kind of thing where you get hour after hour of rain training on the same area. And that was largely due to the fact that we just didn't have that kind of moisture in the air today.
And Tom, training means?
That means storms moving over the same area repeatedly.
Okay.
So in other words, you know how heavily it rains in one thunderstorm. Well, picture being in a corridor that has, 5 or 10 or 15 thunderstorms go over the same area in a short period of time. And that's what happens when you get those really extreme rain events. Like we had a 9-inch rain event in parts of Cook County, terrible flooding with that this past summer. That was a case where these storms were, following a trek that took the heaviest rain-producing portions of those storms over the same narrow corridor. And those corridors are often only 10 or 20 or 30 miles wide. They aren't very wide, but, the rain that pours out in those.
Look at that juicy hail.
Yeah, wow. Isn't that something?
Romeoville.
That's respectable hail.
That can do damage for sure.
Imagine the updraft it took to keep those hailstones suspended long enough to gain, that kind of mass, to grow that large. It's updrafts carrying moisture and rain over those hailstones that causes them to grow to that size until finally either the updraft stops or, the things get so massive and so large they can't be suspended any longer by the updraft. And so they fall down to down to earth. And that could do some serious damage to one's head, There we are. See how that corridor, and look how, there aren't storm reports south of it. There aren't even a whole lot of them as you go north, a couple in Wisconsin. But it's very clear that one corridor started out by Quincy and, made its way northeastward, going through, it looks like just south of DeKalb, the Aurora area, the Fox Valley, northern Kendall County, and the Joliet area northward. Now, some of the fact that you get a cluster of reports is driven by the population in an area, But you can see, even in the more open areas where you don't get as many reports, there were a respectable number of reports coming in, and some of those are from spotters that are out there and other folks who live in those areas who call in the reports. It's really very important that we get that kind of feedback. Our storm spotters perform an incredible public service because they give us ground truth to what we're seeing on the radar. It's one thing to see a Doppler radar estimate of winds. You get somebody under there and say, hey, I just had an oak tree fall across my car. That takes on a whole different weight, I mean, no pun intended. It's something that confirms that it's every bit as bad as and damaging as your remote sensing Doppler radar tells you.
And you talked about how rare it is to have a tornado here in Cook County.
In February, yeah.
Is it El Nino?
That's part of it, Ray. The unseasonable warmth. And you've got two things working on this crazy weather across the country this year. You've got exceptional warmth brought on by El Ninos that tend to do that. And then you superimpose that on a climate that has been warming. We've been warming even without El Nino. But add El Nino to it, and boom, you add that little extra boost. And warm air is buoyant. And all weather is driven by differential heating. In fact, one area gets warmer than another one. The bigger that spread, the stronger the weather systems that develop between those differing air masses. That's why your storms in winter tend to be larger and stronger, because you've got more cold air next to a large pool of warm air that sits in the tropical regions and southern areas of the country. And so the organization of your storms and the scale on which they occur is huge. And you tend to get these storms that are 1,000 miles across, whereas, in the warmer season, you tend to get squall lines that are relatively narrow and convective clusters that are not nearly as expansive geographically, and yet they can be terribly damaging because of the heat and the buoyancy of the air in the hot summer air.
Well, we want to thank everybody for sticking with us. Demetrius Ivory, Tom Skilling, producer Bill Snyder have been with us since 5:45 reporting on this severe weather in our area. All the tornado watches, tornado warnings have expired. So we're going to go off now, but we will be back at 9 o'clock to give you all the latest.
All right. See you in about half an hour.
See you guys.
Bye.